Welcome, friends, to the Netherlands, 1634. The air is thick with the scent of salty herring, fresh paint, and new money. The Dutch had built a global empire on trade, pulling wealth from the sea in the four corners of the world. They were practical people, famous for their thrift, their canals, and their utter devotion to guilders. Yet, in this age of rational commerce, they were about to be undone by something exquisitely irrational. A flower. Meet Henk Van Der Vliet, a carpenter whose soul was as solid as the oak he cut. Henk loved order. He measured twice, cut once, and kept his savings buried under his hearthstone. But order was dissolving. The plague wasn't rats, it was posies. Tulips, exotic, flamed, and suddenly priceless. Henk would watch neighbors neglect their work to gossip about the latest Viceroy bulb, a flower that to Henk looked suspiciously like an onion that had lost its mind. Henk's friend, Aert the baker, a man who once worried over the cost of yeast, now swaggered in clothes too fine for kneading dough. Aert had traded a year's bread production for 2 contracts.
Henk, you persist with your dusty wood. I'm trading with a gentleman now. They say this Semper Augustus is going to buy me a canal house. A canal house, Henk. With a gable and everything.
The humor of it was grim. A nation of pragmatists was trading tangible assets, horses, cheese, and even whole breweries, for an ornamental root. Why the tulip? Firstly, they were rare status symbols. The most valuable patterns were actually caused by a non-lethal virus. The ultimate irony, their immense worth came from a plant disease. This played into the Dutch obsession with Vanitas, showy, temporary wealth. But the true villain was the future's market. The physical bulb wasn't even needed. Traders dealt in paper promises, selling contracts for next season's bulbs. This system was an open invitation to reckless leverage. One didn't need a ship full of gold to play. A small down payment bought a massive investment. It was a Dutch carousel of debt and wishful thinking. People who'd never seen a tulip field were suddenly tulip barons, flipping contracts several times before the bulb even saw soil. The whole market was a giant gilded balloon, floating higher and higher on the hot air of pure hope. If you find yourself laughing nervously because you recognize this behavior in today's market, do yourself a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe. We're here to help you measure twice before you trade once. Henk watched Cornelis the fishmonger dive headfirst into the mania. Cornelis sold his entire fishing business, nets, boat and all, for a crate of Admiral of Admirals contracts. He started acting like a lord. He bought a silly little monkey and fed it imported sweets. His boastful joy was terrifying.
Henk, you old stick in the mud. You've missed the greatest wealth transfer in history. We're not selling flowers. We're selling dreams.
The price peaked when one bulb contract was exchanged for 12 wagon loads of wheat. The baker was starving the nation, metaphorically and almost literally. And then, February 1637. It happened not with a bang, but with a pregnant pause. At a bulb auction, the last buyer simply didn't show up. He decided the price was too absurd. The next seller, realizing they were stuck, tried to cut their losses. The dominoes fell instantly. The paper contracts, previously worth fortunes, became as valuable as the dirt they were supposed to represent. People who went to bed millionaires woke up to nothing but debt. The grand balloon didn't pop. It simply deflated with a mournful sigh. Henk wasn't immune to the communal grief. He found Cornelis weeping by the canal, his velvet coat now stained, his pet monkey gone. The courts, in a typically Dutch orderly fashion, were paralyzed. They couldn't enforce contracts for a trade that had been utterly non-commercial and based on gambling. The whole affair was deemed a gambling debt, rendering it void but leaving thousands in financial ruin. The Golden Age's greatest embarrassment wasn't a military defeat. It was being defeated by a garden ornament. 4 centuries later, the ghost of the tulip offers stark lessons. The Dutch learned that even the most grounded, gilder-loving society can be swept away by collective delusion. Ask, does it produce value? Henk's furniture yielded a profit. The tulip did not. If an asset's entire value relies on the expectation of selling it to someone more foolish than you for more money, you're playing the greater fool game. That game always runs out of fools. The crowd is almost always wrong. When your fishmonger is giving you investment advice, it's time to sell. Prosperity breeds speculation. When money is easy, people forget the principles of risk and value. When the hype replaces logic, remember the sound of that silent Harlem auction. Henk stuck to his discipline. Successful investing is disciplined, diversified, and dull. It requires patience and a spine to resist the dizzying euphoria of a market bubble. Don't let FOMO, the fear of missing the tulip, destroy your long-term plan. Henk kept his Hearthstone savings and his sanity. The tulips wilted, but Henk's principles endured. Build your future on oak and iron, not paper promises and petals. What modern-day asset do you think has the faint, dangerous scent of the tulip about it? Let us know in the comments.